One of the things I'm going to make in my garden is a concrete stepping stone patio. So this first picture is a basket of some broken granite that a friend brought to me. And then for anything where you're using a mold for concrete, you need vegetable oil. I use a spray vegetable oil. And then I use a 5-gallon bucket. And then for stepping stones, I use ready-to-use concrete mix. This one is called Quickcrete, and it's the one that has the little rocks in it, and that helps it hold together better. So that's why I want to use it where I'm going to be stepping on it rather than just a mortar mix. Always, always, always use especially a dust mask when you're working with concrete, because when that powder is flying in the air, it gets in your lungs. It is really unhealthy for you. And then this is what one of the stones I'm going to make looks like prior to me laying the concrete. So what I did was I took Fimo dough and I rolled it out really thin, and then I formed little letters in it and baked those in a 150-degree oven for a couple hours. And then when they were done, I turned them over, I laid them on a contact paper. So the contact part is facing upwards, laid the letters on it upside down, backwards or whatever, so that, because the idea is when I flip the stepping stone over, you'll be able to read it. And then I built a form for this out of 4-inch, I think it was pine, but I screwed it together, and the reason for that is then you can just unscrew an end and remove the form, and then laid it down on a flat surface. So here's what it actually looks like. It's on the ground where I'm doing the patio area, and I wanted it as close to where it's going to be as possible because I knew it might be pretty heavy, and I'm doing this by myself. Here's another form. I went into Restore, which is a building salvage store, looking for things that I could use for forms for my stepping stones. Okay, so then I take my concrete and I sit down close to where I'm going to be pouring it. I've got my dust mask on, I've got my gloves on, I've got a hose running close by, and I just add a little bit of water at a time. You don't want to overwork concrete, and you don't want to make it too mushy. So you really want kind of like pancake batter, or even a little thicker than that. You want it you just don't want it too soupy. So I mix my concrete in the bucket, and then as you can see, I'm pouring it into my first form. This one, I'm going to put stuff on the top of this one. So, and there wasn't a bottom to it, so I actually just poured it right onto the mulch, and you'll see that in when I take the form off. Doesn't hurt it at all because I'm putting it back down into the mulch after it's dry. Here's the one that I poured for the Creativity Takes Courage one that I'm doing. And as you can see, the form around it is screwed in on the sides, and then I've poured the concrete in and flattened it out. Once I've poured the concrete, I let these dry overnight before I take the forms off. And then on this one, I wanted to add some reclaimed material, so I'm using lids to cans. I just take them out, I set them down how I want them, and then I take my fingers and just gently push them down into the concrete. I don't like push them down in one push. I kind of move my fingers up and down because that kind of gets the concrete kind of loose around it, and it'll kind of absorb it a little bit. So I don't want the concrete to actually run onto the lids, but I want to get the lids pressed in there just to the point where it's going to. Concrete doesn't cure from the air, from the drying process. It actually cures from the moisture. So you don't want your concrete to dry out too quickly. So I've placed just a plastic garbage bag over the top of these. So I leave this overnight for 24 hours, and then I come back and I take my concrete out of the molds. So these are two that I did, and these are upside down. The difference is one of them had the bottom on the mold. These two are actually a garbage can, an old one that we no longer needed, and so I cut it into thirds. I just used the table saw and cut them each about 2.5 inches thick. So this is what they look like, and you can see this is the garbage can that I cut into 3 pieces. The top one I use some rocks, pebbles that I had found, and then the one on the bottom is where I use some of those pieces of broken granite that a friend had given to me. So I like both of them. And then this is the Creativity Takes Courage one. And all I did was unscrew one of the boards and then just slide it off. Came off really easily. If you leave a way to remove one side of your form, it's very easy to remove the forms. So this is what they'll look like, and eventually when I get the whole patio done, I will post some pictures. So check back to my website, which is cammydavis.com. CAMMYDavis.com. I'm doing online tutorials for the things that I'm doing to change my front yard. So check all of my how-to tutorials, and please don't be afraid to contact me if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and stay creative.